Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Hello, Lee Summit. Here's your flash briefing for the week of August 21st. City Council will meet for regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. If you can't watch, quickly catch up on City Council meetings by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Join District 1 Council members Mia Pryor and Hillary Shields for a town hall on August 30th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Bridge Space. Receive an update on major projects and visit with department representatives. This town hall is a come-and-go event. Unable to attend, the meeting will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. Stay cool, Lee Summit. It's going to be hot, hot, hot this week. If you need a place to cool down, the lobbies of the J. Thomas Lovell, Gamber, and Longview Community Centers are cooling centers during business hours. Single visit passes into these community centers will be reduced to half price through August 23rd. The 3 Lee Summit Mid-Continent libraries also serve as cooling centers during regular business hours. And a reminder, be sure to check on the elderly, and children and pets should never be left in the car. Curious about Lee Summit Downtown Market Plaza project? The public is invited to learn more about the dynamic project at a neighborhood meeting on Wednesday, August 23rd at 5:30 p.m. in Council Chambers at City Hall. View updated plans and renderings of the Downtown Market Plaza, ask questions, and meet project and design teams. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Have you ever been driving around Lee Summit and wondered what's that going to be? What's being built there? Wow, that went up fast. The Development Minute is here to help, highlighting some of the newest projects in Lee Summit, Missouri. The Lee Summit Transfer Facility, located at the Resource Recovery Park in South Lee Summit, is a Missouri Department of Natural Resources regulated facility, providing a location for contractors and developers to recycle debris. The facility, which offers equipment only found in 2 other facilities in the U.S., will break down recyclables like rebar, concrete, and more. Existing city services will continue at the Resource Recovery Park. Rain Tree Village, a senior living community, is being developed off of Highway 150 at Arbor Walk. The 3-phase project on 12 acres will offer independent and assisted living, short-term rehab, and long-term care for residents. The 150,000 square foot facility will have 126 residential units, 60 memory care units, and 80 to 100 staff members. It is set to open in 2024. New Longview is getting Apothecary Wines and Spirits. The wine, beer, and spirits store will offer local, classic, and rare vintages and libations. Opening date coming soon. Smoothie King is coming to 1440 Northeast Douglas Street, south of St. Luke's East Hospital. The smoothie company focuses on using whole fruits, vegetables, and healthy ingredients in all of its blends. The store is set to open on Tuesday, September 12th. Summer Moon Coffee is opening its first Missouri location in Lee Summit at Summit Fair Shopping Center on Saturday, August 12th. The coffee shop uses a wood-fire coffee roasting process that offers a different flavor profile than air roasting. The Lee Summit location features a drive-thru, online order ahead, and outdoor seating. That's it for the Development Minute. For more about upcoming projects, visit cityofls.net.
You're invited to discover summer fun. Ride the waves in the wave pool. Jump off the diving boards. Take a dip in the Action River. And slide down the slides at our outdoor water park, Summit Waves. After a day in the sun, experience downtown Lee Summit. Enjoy gourmet pizza and delicious food for lunch. Then, cool down with handcrafted ice cream right around the corner. Summer at the Summit, Lee Summit, Missouri.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either a bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as the co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person, and they responded immediately, and we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Lee Summit has you covered for all of your summer fun. Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. In the night with live music and good company. Summer at the Summit, Lee Summit, Missouri.
Good questions. Yes, Councilmember Edson.
Since this is a cooperative agreement, is this similar to like when we buy things through the mart?
It'd be similar. We don't buy through them.
We moved to Lee Summit right before we had our 3rd child, and we ended up raising all 4 of our children here. And it's been just such a great place to raise kids. Well, I'd been involved in government and politics for a long time, different aspects of it. And then when I was raising my kids, I was very involved in different community organizations and involved with the schools. And as my kids got older and I saw them and their friends starting to leave the community, I realized that there were some things that needed to be done in order to attract younger people back to Lee Summit, and I wanted to be part of that conversation. We need to work on economic development and keep trying to get more jobs here that pay well so that they will attract our kids. We have this great school system that we're all paying for, and yet our kids graduate and leave. We need to work with the school districts and with the businesses to create an environment that keeps our kids here. We have a great community with great housing, but we also don't have enough housing that is attainable for middle class. People who are just starting in the workforce can't afford to buy a house here at this point in time. If you take your average firefighter and your teacher and they're married, it's very hard for them to buy a house in Lee Summit. So some of my priorities when I ran were economic development, attainable housing, and public safety. When I ran 6 years ago, our police officers and our firefighters were some of the worst paid public safety folks in the metro area. And in the past 6 years, we've done a great job of getting their pay up, getting their benefits up, and now there will be a public safety tax, which will be a game changer for Lee Summit. It will help us to attract and retain new talent for the coming years. All communities are having a hard time recruiting and retaining police and firefighters. So if we can be a place that they want to come and is desirable, it's going to be great for the well-being of our community. We need to make sure that not only are we paying people well, but that we have enough fire stations as the city grows. We need to make sure that we grow the police department. Something else I'm really proud of, the replacement of Fire Station 4 and 5. I started taking council members on tours of Fire Station number 4 to show them how badly a replacement for that station was needed. There are so many opportunities to get involved in this community, whether it's serving on a committee, whether it's participating in the Citizens Leadership Academy, which the city sponsors. It's easy to sit at home and complain and think you understand how it works, and then when you actually understand how it works, you have a better appreciation for it, and you'll want to get involved more. I just wanted to clarify that. I think Hillary did a great job. Thank you.
Order the Lee Summit Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, August 24th, 2023. Can I get a roll call, please?
Art Kitchens. Linda Rader.
Here.
Jake Lovelace. Narth.
Present.
Dunk.
Present.
Harry Trafton.
Present.
Sonia Jonna Ford.
Present.
Chip Tozinski. Andy Benbrook.
Present.
Thank you. I know no changes to the agenda, so I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Mr. Chair, I would like to move that we approve the agenda as published.
Motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could I get a vote on approval of the agenda, please?
Linda Rader,
Aye. Aye.
Yes.
Gary Trafton,
Aye.
Benbrook.
Yes.
Tanya John Ford,
Aye.
Thank you. And the agenda has been approved. We'll move on to our next item of business is public comments for anything for the Planning Commission outside of any of the applications that we have tonight. Anyone on Zoom for a public comment outside of our applications? Okay, we will move on to our next item of business, and that is approval excuse me, of our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains one item, and that is approval of the August 10th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Can I get a motion on approval of the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I am moved that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion, I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Could I get a vote on approval of the consent agenda?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Art,
Aye.
Yes.
Gary Trafton,
Yes.
Tanya John Ford,
Yes.
Benbrook.
Yes.
Thank you. The consent agenda has been approved. We will move on to our first public hearing. That is application, we will open up application PL 2023-053, preliminary development plan, Kensington Farms, second plat, third plat, and future phase, revised architecture, inspired homes applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony or speak on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time. And if you are in Zoom, please turn your camera on.
Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
Thank you. Applicant has a presentation for us, please. You could give us your name and address for the record here before you get started. That'd be great.
Reagan Long, 5631 Thean Street, Shawnee, Kansas. Good to go?
Yep.
So, I'm Reagan Long. I work for Inspired Homes. A little bit about Inspired. We started in 2014 in the KC Metro. We're currently one of the top 10 single-family home builders in the area. We build exclusively in 7 communities, and we build in 8 additional open communities. In Lee Summit, we currently build in Kessler Ridge, Pryor Ridge, and Kensington Farms. Tonight, we're seeking approval for revised elevations for Kensington Farms. Kensington Farms was a master plan community in Lee Summit in the early 2000s. It was a Pulte Homes community when it originally started, was master planned. At some point, Pulte kind of pulled out of the metro, and since that time, there's been multiple builders in Kensington Farms, and different types of homes have been built in there. About 8 years ago is when Inspired Homes purchased the developed lots. So at this time, we own all the developed lots in there, and we are the sole builder in Kensington Farms. The map below is something we created to kind of show you where it is in 2023. Anything in red is a sold home, so those are residents that live in homes in Lee Summit. Anything in the light kind of lime green color, those are developed lots that we own and we plan to build on. And the purple are spec homes, homes under construction, the kind of light purple color. The blue color in the southeast corner, that's an additional 11 acres that Inspired Homes owns. That'll be between about 50 to 55 lots when we develop it, and we're planning to hopefully develop in the next year and a half or so. Everything in the darker purple, that's city park ground. The darker green color, that is open space maintained by the HOA. So that'll be indefinite open space in Kensington Farms. And then anything in white, that is owned by a holdings company. So when the original developer left, that property went back to a holdings company. So that is not owned by Inspired Homes. And again, to kind of reiterate tonight, we're not seeking any approvals of any type of plat, rezoning, any changes to setbacks. It's truly just for the exterior elevations of the homes we are building currently. In 2014, After the lots were bought, there was an update to the original PDP. These were some of the elevations that were approved at the time. So this was part of the 2014 PDP amendment. Those home styles currently aren't really being built any longer in the KC Metro. They include kind of the French country, the Mediterranean, and then also the Craftsman style that's a little bit more cottage-like with a lot of shaker and tapered columns. So these are currently the approved elevations for Kensington Farms. Based on market trends, that's why we've come in tonight to talk to you about updates to the PDP and the elevations allowed. In the metro area, farmhouse is very prevalent right now and very popular with buyers, as is Craftsman, a more modern take on Craftsman, and a more modern home style too that has some wood elements and different type of roof lines. The benefits of allowing the updated elevations are unique streetscapes. Since we are the sole builder in Kensington Farms, we do offer a lot of floor plans. We have floor plans, some that are more popular than others. So having 3 to 5 different types of elevations per floor plan is crucial in ensuring that we have kind of unique streetscape and provide a variety within the neighborhood. Allows for more sustainable materials. Types of materials have changed in the last 10 years. So we use a black metal roofing that's zero maintenance. The wood product that you'll see in our modern homes and future slides is a manufactured product, so it is not a stained cedar. It's actually a bought product that has a lifetime warranty and a lifetime fade resistance warranty. The updated elevations include adding front porches and dormers on a lot of the elevations, but it also includes adding a rear deck or rear covered patio. So all homes built in Kensington Farms will have a covered patio off the back. And then also when we update our elevations, we ensure that we provided cohesiveness by looking at existing homes and making sure that while we updated them and modernized them, we also are being cohesive and not do anything that makes it stand out within the neighborhood. Examples of our current floor plans are below. The first one is the modern, our take on modern. So it has a hip roof line, a little bit more, a hip roof line, a little bit more linear roof line. Again, that wood product is not a stained wood. It's a manufactured product with a lifetime warranty and stucco elements. In the top right is a farmhouse. Currently, farmhouse and the board and batten is not allowed in Kensington, so we're seeking approval to allow that farmhouse type of elevation that's very popular right now. And it also includes black windows on the modern farmhouse and that black seamless metal roofing. At the bottom left is the prairie style. It's unique because it has a longer soffit, so it extends 2 feet out versus a foot out for the eaves. So again, as you drive a street, it kind of creates that unique streetscape where it's a break in the roof line, having the hip versus the gable, but also having longer eaves and soffits. And then the bottom right is a Craftsman style, a little bit more modern take with having the double pillars and various stone heights. So again, trying to provide some undulation across the street as you drive it, varying heights of stone and varying materials. Same for the reverse style homes, providing dormers. Again, the wood product on the modern, the black windows versus the white windows, the black metal roofing, board and batten with a mix of shaker, various stone heights. So try and provide a variety so that the community has a unique sense to it and has a lot of curb appeal. When we approached staff about updating the elevations, one of the concerns was having a front projection of the garage and wanting to make sure that the garage wasn't too prevalent in the overall elevation of the home. The Fairfield is an example I used in the staff report, but it's also the one I'm using tonight. The Fairfield is our home that has the greatest projection from the front door to the face of the garage. So here, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. Based on the foundation plan, the front door to the face of the garage is 20 feet. Where from the flex room to the face of the garage is 10, but from the front porch to the face of the garage is 4. So with the Fairfield, because of that projection, we've incorporated a porch onto every elevation that's available in the Fairfield plan and provided different styles of dormers. So it kind of cohesively blends the house into the face of the garage so you don't notice that protrusion of the garage. Something else to kind of keep in mind too is the Fairfield is a home that we build in Kensington Farms, but it's also built throughout the metro. So one thing that we try to do is keep our floor plans consistent. So by making sure that the Fairfield we build in Lee Summit is the same as South Johnson County, West Olathe, Platte County, that helps our trades. It helps keeping mistakes and rework down and make sure that the HVAC layouts and electrical layouts are consistent. So it helps with the speed of the home and construction, It also helps keep cost in control, so that on the end also helps keep control costs for the end buyer. Another example of the Fairfield, this shows the front elevation and then the rear and both sides. Something that we try to do is provide some contouring on the sides, whether it's a bump out for a little bit extra room in the bathroom or a closet, adding windows on the sides and then the deck on the back. Trying to make sure that we don't have that square look, but providing bump outs and changes in the roof line to provide diversity and make sure that from the driving the street side that you see some of that contouring on all sides of the home. Final slide. These are existing homes that we've built within the last year with the updated elevations in other communities and other cities. Again, you'll see the roof line, kind of the picture here, the extended roof lines that we're building on the heritage and prairie style from the farmhouse style. Just trying to vary what it looks like. So when we are the exclusive builder, that it has that curb appeal, that community has a sense of kind of being unique. And then when someone buys a home, they have ability to decide what type of stone they want, what color they want, the heights of the stones, and the elevation they want that kind of fits their needs and gives that community kind of a sense of uniqueness. Is all I got.
Thank you. Let's see. Staff has a presentation for us.
Good evening, Hector Soto Jr., Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 12.
Exhibits 1 through 12 noted and entered into the record.
First image in front of you is just to provide some background regarding the zoning of the property. The entire Kensington Farm subdivision is zoned PMIX. As you're aware from previous experiences with PMIX development, development of said properties are tied to the plan that was adopted at that time. With this particular project, it was the original 2005 plan, the subsequent 2014 plan, and now we have the 2023 plan. For the 14 and 23 plan, the scope of those applications was just limited to expanding the architectural palette, if you will, available to homeowners that were interested in building homes here in this subdivision. So when we are approving a preliminary development plan in the PMIX, we are including those elevations and making them the governing documents for this subdivision. This is the image that Ms. Long previously went through. The area in white, I don't believe she touched on this, but just to give you a little bit of reference as to what the area in white is. So the area in white is approximately 148 acres yet to be developed that are not under the ownership of Inspired Homes. So they are under separate ownership and they're not the subject of today's application. Now, that particular property in white that you do see is still subject to the original plans that were adopted in 2005. So those elevations that were adopted at that time are still the governing design document for these 150 or so acres. But tonight we're just dealing with the areas in red, although primarily the ones that are affected are the lots in green that were mentioned, which are about 36, I believe, about 36 undeveloped lots and the 52 or so future lots in the blue area. So I apologize for the poor image on quality on these. These were all we had left from that original file. So I took the best of what I had to try to kind of acquaint you if you didn't already know what some of the existing architecture was out there. So these are renderings from that original 2005 approval. So we had a mix of single story to 2-story, 1.5 as well. The materials that were adopted at that time as the primary exterior materials were that of vinyl lap siding, brick, and stucco. And that was it. There was the approved material list did not expand beyond those options of 3 that were listed. One thing you can see with the, particularly with the single story buildings, in those particular cases, the garages were a little bit more prominent. I believe like this, a couple of 2 stories did have a little bit more prominent garages as well. But for the most part, they were, as you can see, kind of single loaded. Although they did have some 2-car garage, they did have 2-car garage options throughout there. But some of these elevations did make the garage the prominent feature in the front elevation. And so these are the images that were shown from the 2014 that was Mr. Long previously spoke to. And at that time, the material palette that was expanded to include stucco, masonry, lap siding, and shake siding. So with the applications that in front of you now, you can see on this particular model, this one is the Calistoga that I'm showing you here. This one probably is one of the groups that probably has like the largest breadth of allowed materials to include stucco, masonry veneer, lap siding, board and batten, shake siding. It does allow for those standing seam metal roof accents, and then also some of those cedar post accents that you see. A number of these you've already, like I said, Ms. Long has already gone through a number of these elevations. So I have all 43 available options if you wanted to go through all of those, but I'll just kind of jump through some of them. So basically what you can see is that with the options that are being provided as part of this plan, the different, I guess, subtypes within the individual models do have to allow or offer a lot of facade modulation to provide and break up a lot of those planes. So while you do have, again, the 2-car garages, these options that you see here have a 3rd-car garage, but rather than having just one continuous long plane to house the 3rd-car garage, you can see that there's there are projections and recessed entries that are provided, and you've got living areas that are pulled forward in some cases with some models, or you have activated front areas, like some of the porch features that you see here that really weren't available under previous options in Kensington Farm. I can kind of slowly go through some of these. Cardinal, this one wasn't one that was shown, but again, you see the use of dormers, the extensive use of dormers and multiple gables on the different elevations that weren't previously offered to help break some of those materials up and break up those facades. So this is the one model where I believe there's just a single option, the Glenwood model that was shown. But again, you have some of that modulation. You have multiple gables that are being offered here. Let me. So you do have a recessed entry, covered front porch, but recessed 3rd-car garage. You've got recessed living area back there, and kind of a stepped approach with the front door there, immediately adjacent to the garage, between that and the flex living space. So when looking at the elevations, staff was mindful of looking at what some of the recommendations from the IGNITE plan are. So in the strong neighborhoods component of the IGNITE plan, one of the things that are mentioned is that in order to encourage strong and dynamic neighborhoods is to allow greater housing options, not just in the type of home, but be it single family villa, duplex, multifamily, but just also in the styles of homes that are being offered, to create additional architectural interests, within and between neighborhoods, and better be able to cater to some of the differing architectural trends and styles and preferences that homeowners have. And there's a mix of single story, reverse 1.5 story, and 2 story. So there was a neighborhood meeting that was held on May 30th. There were about over 30 attendees. At that time, there was and we've not received any concerns or any phone calls from the public, but at that meeting, there were no concerns expressed regarding the proposed architecture once it was clarified what the scope of the application that was being made by Inspired Homes. What the meeting notes reflected was that really the only questions that were raised by some of those residents were just questions about the future of that 150 acres that are yet to be developed. But again, Inspired Homes does not own that property, so and again, not only that, but it's not a portion, or it's not related to this particular application. So that portion is still subject to the original 2005 plan. But at this point, the city is, to my knowledge, we've yet to be approached regarding any possible development of those 150 acres. So at this point, we're kind of in a holding pattern, just like the rest of the public is, as it relates to the development of that additional piece of it. So there are 2 conditions of approval. Condition number 1 is basically just expanding the existing approved plans to add the design guidebook, I guess in a way, is almost an addendum to the previously approved plans. And then the second one is just basically making Kensington Farms to be continued to serve under the obligations of the previously approved ordinance, which the bulk of those conditions of approval will have to do with future infrastructure improvements that are required as the additional 150 acres are developed. So with that, I will yield to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Hector. Do we have any questions from the public regarding this application? One in Zoom land? Oh. Okay. We had someone, we were notified someone is on, but not for this application.
That's correct.
Okay. I will move on to the commission for questions for staff or the applicant. Commissioner Rader.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions for Ms. Long. Okay, my first one is the board and batten, which is a product that was used a lot in the old days of building, it was not a very good product because a lot of it rotted. And so are you doing a different kind of board? You know, because the slats get water behind and then they rot and different things. So are you using the same kind of masonite type boarding that you used back then, or what do you, I'm just curious about, you know.
The exact type, that I apologize, I won't know that. I do know with painting everything is caulked and painted, and I think some of that is just how it's constructed and how it's taken care of before it's painted to seal those seams so the water can't get back in behind them. The exact material, I apologize, I don't.
We don't know if it's the same material that they used in the past.
That I don't know if it's the exact same.
It's got a nice look, but yeah, I wondered. Is your lab siding going to be vinyl again on the new product?
We do not use any vinyl on any of our homes.
So what, are you using a smart siding or?
It's the smart siding on the sides, yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, so this isn't going to change your CC&Rs at all, right? Because you're changing are you changing any exterior products that were in your CC&Rs where they're design guidelines for, I'm guessing you're not changing any of that. Are you adding on to that? And
we need to look about the wood product we're adding in to see. A lot of times they're kind of broad enough. It should cover everything that's being added, like stucco, stone. So it really shouldn't get anything except for maybe the wood product that's being added in. And again, it's a newer product on the market. And we're choosing to use that over the cedar siding that a lot of people use just because it has a higher warranty and it's fade protected and less maintenance.
Sounds like you're using some pretty good products that'll be.
It was kind of a commercial based product that's moving into the residential market.
And then, let me see, I was gonna ask you, will these be a smaller footprint? Or will they be
Sizes will stay the same. The Danbury that you see is our smallest, and that one's very popular with, empty nesters or single buyers. And so it's kind of more of a price point that still you can attain a new home, but still hit a price point that's, where it needs to be for a single buyer, or maybe an empty nester. But no, square footages aren't changing at all. It's nice because we do offer a variety from that smaller all the way up to the larger floor plan and some of the 2 stories.
So is your price point, do you know what those price points are gonna be?
Currently, we're still in the 4s. And with the Danbury and some of the others.
Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Arth.
No questions.
Commissioner Trafton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think actually one of my questions got answered. The 11 acres, this is for the 11 acres, include that you calling them cottages because they're smaller lots, but okay. And then the other question was, I didn't see any in the notes or anything. Like, who owns that land? It's a holding company. Have you guys tried to acquire that land? Is it like?
It's a complicated, I don't know if your legal wants to address it at all. So we've spoken to the broker for it and stuff, but it's a challenging piece because there's a lot going on with the past NID and different things, and I'll let you address if you want.
Yeah, I can provide a little more information about that. That land is owned by a holding company that acquired the property in connection with a neighborhood improvement district that was approved by the city many years ago. I'll give you a short summary of the situation so you have some context. The city approved a neighborhood improvement district and issued debt to fund street improvements, and that debt is repaid by special assessments imposed on the property. Previous developer stopped paying the special assessments, and so the property was sold in foreclosure, and the trustee for the bondholders purchased that property, and the property is now owned by a holding company that's managed by that trustee for the bondholders. So the simplest way to think about it is it's being held in trust for the bondholders. The land could be sold, and that would reimburse the bondholders either in whole or in part. So it's being held by a holding company connected with the bank on behalf of the bondholders.
Yeah, took the land over. Who was the previous owner that?
Yeah, it was either Pulte or a company connected with Pulte, I believe.
Oh, it was? Okay. All right, thank you. So you guys have tried to work something out to acquire that?
We've had some conversations. I kind of relisted it pretty recently again. I think that's just hard to put a quantity or a price on what's out there. I think they're even having a hard time with the listing price, just because there's so much into the NID and what's infrastructure's in the ground, what infrastructure's left to be built. It crosses county lines too, which gets a little bit more challenging from Cass County to Jackson. So there's a lot kind of going on that piece. We enjoy building Kensington Farms, and we're invested in the community. We're part of the HOA. We're the HOA management, the board of the HOA, and we hire the management company. So we're invested in Kensington Farms, but it's just a tricky piece of ground.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bimbrett.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A couple questions. To clarify, actually, I think this is going to be for. Oh, there he is. There you go. If we approve this today, does it alleviate any previous requirements on the FDP or PDP? In other words, was there anything in the original that specified 3-sided architecture, anything of that nature, a limit on what could be used for materials?
No. If anything, so what it will do is it'll expand the number or the type of allowable materials or the areas in the second and third plat. It's essentially the 36 lots that are still available. But it does nothing to lessen any previous standard.
Okay. Thank you. And then again, materials, I want to clarify a couple things. You said the smart panel was going to be on the sides. I'm assuming smart panel is going to be on 3 sides of this, the back, the 2 sides.
So on the front, as far as the lap siding, you said you're not using vinyl products anymore. What products are you going to use? Going to be an engineered product?
The front's just that traditional, what you see in all single family with the lap siding. So it's just like
But
the,
what's your lap siding? What are you proposing? Because if you throw up some paper mache stuff, I'm going to say no. I want to know exactly
for the
what-
exact type. I mean, I'd have to get, I don't know the exact product we use. This was traditionally used for any lap. I know it's not hardy siding, but it's a traditional lap siding that any single family builder uses and what's currently.
So it's not a cementatious siding, but it's a engineered siding of some sort.
Some sort, yes.
Okay, and same, can we assume the same with the board and batten? That it's going to be an engineered product?
I would assume so, yes. Again, I don't know the exact, the exact manufacturer or the exact material it's made out of, but it's what's industry standard. I mean, it's we get our siding, our board and batten from, anywhere else, anyone other single family builder is going to get it from in the KC Metro. So it's a high quality product. I know it's not hardy board, but it is a engineered product. The Tyvek underneath and everything else to help with that water protection.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jana Ford.
No questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Probably I'll save you the steps and I'll swap you with Hector. But just for the record, the 150 acres, you guys don't want anything to do with, right?
That's not accurate necessarily. I just think
This is the question that came from the public.
Oh.
So the 150 acres you're interested in, and it could become single family residence, correct?
I mean, we're a single family builder, yes.
Okay,
I mean,
that's all I wanted to make sure we get the public the question they wanted to know. So you're interested in the land that it could become single family residence in the future. Okay. Hector, so those faux columns, they're not cedar, they're not wood. So they're a faux column. Is that something that we have in the UDO that we're good with?
the columns themselves are cedar, so the posts you see are cedar. They're a stained cedar. Siding that is that cladding that goes on it. It's a product that's an engineered product, but grained looking product. Most builders put a cedar on it, which is a maintenance kind of warp in the sunlight. This has a warranty on it, so it's the cedar. The posts themselves are cedar. It's more that siding where you saw some of that elements. That is a manufactured engineered product that kind of was commercial based, and now it's moving into residential.
Was that something that we have as approved product?
So the UDO does not have any approved material list for residential. So the only approved material list shows up for non-residential development. So if the material that's being proposed, essentially, I guess the standard is meet building code. If it meets building code, it is a permissible material. Now, the PDP portion of it that brings us in front of you, the Planning Commission and City Council does have the authority to place additional restrictions on the use of certain materials. But as far as just a base standard for residential exterior materials, the UDO is silent on that.
Okay. I guess that's all I have then, because that doesn't, we don't know what this material is they're putting on there, and I think going with Commissioner Benbrook of not knowing the type of lap siding, I mean, there's a million types of lap siding from this grade to this grade. I'll save it for comments.
Excuse me, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director. I just wanted to also add that because because the faux material in this case is being used as an accent piece or like a third section piece, it's not a primary piece. We also do review that and look at that, and that's why also we were supportive or okay with it because it wasn't used as a primary in this particular and for those home models.
What is this material?
It is, I believe that you said it was cedar, and then the faux accent piece was made of, it's not, is it Nichiha or anything? Corey.
That's
Okay.
not, I mean, that's something
have
needs
it
to be
with me
entered
right
into the record, and we need to understand it. Anything else from the commission? I will close the public hearing and open up for discussion or a motion on this. I will start by saying I would be inclined to continue this application until they can show us what these products are. the lap siding, those kind of things. Anybody? Commissioner Benbrook?
Yeah, I would be in favor of that. Also, unless we can put into it some sort of verbiage that it would be an engineered exterior product with the support. I know there's a lot of products out there that will meet that, but I just want to make sure, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's not very quality. And if I was in this neighborhood and they changed everything and started throwing some low quality stuff on, I'd be a little concerned.
I agree. Commissioner Trafton, you have anything for comments? Garth?
No. I was just ask Miss Long if she has any idea at this time of the products that could be, that you think you're going to be using.
We've already closed the public hearing.
Okay, all right, never mind.
I've pulled up, so we had a meeting with them last week, and it's called New Tech
Our
Wood.
public hearing is
Okay.
closed. We're kind of in
Sorry.
discussions unless
Yeah.
we need to reopen the public hearing. I mean, would this be something we need to get entered into the record if they want to bring stuff up now?
You have the option to reopen the public hearing if you'd like. It's the chair's discretion at this point.
I was just wanting to know if she had the information that you're requesting on the products, so we can.
We can reopen. We'll reopen the public hearing, and Mrs. Long, if you have the product information, we'd like to see it.
So we met with them last week. The company is called New Tech Wood. It's basically, it was started in 2010. It's New Tech Wood. It's an industry's most beautiful, durable, and reliable composite decking material that's used on it's after years of engineering and many hours of testing. The result was a premium product of unrivaled beauty. It talks about the wood fibers as high-density polyethylene plastic, and its outer shell made of a polymer that coats the entire board, making it impervious to staining, scratching, and fading. So, and it's got the 25-year limited transferable warranty. So again, we looked at options. A lot of builders that do the modern style, they put cedar on the exterior as for the accent pieces.
So this product is the accent piece.
Is
This
the acc-
isn't the lap siding.
No, this is the accent wood accents on
Okay.
the modern styles.
So it's plastic. You said plastic material?
So it started in the commercial, like if you've ever seen a Dutch Brothers, for example, they use it a lot in their products. So on the commercial, like when you see a commercial building and you see some of those wood-looking architectural accents, it's not cedar. It's this like high-density polymer that they put on the front. So it's more sustainable, and it doesn't fade. It doesn't warp in the sunlight like cedar does when you put it more on like a siding on the side of the house. So that's why we went with it, because it was more durable, more sustainable than a cider. And then a cedar that's stained.
Okay. Any other questions? You don't have the lap siding material.
I could probably pull in a second. I've got our approved plans, so I'm grabbing it off my phone real quick. So it's called out as the smart trim at the doors. It's 5.5-inch smart trim at all front doors, windows, and then that's the smart trim. And then it talks about the horizontal siding, and it's not actually calling out on the approved plans I have. So I can grab it. It's going to take a second though to grab it from the approved plans that we have, because the architect will label it all out what we use.
Maybe we should continue this
Yeah.
until they can get it a little bit more hammered down.
Let's close the public hearing and we'll move on to a motion or discussion. Any discussions on anything else?
Mayor, I have a question or a comment.
Yes.
So if we're continuing the application to get a better idea for the finishes of the exterior, if we see the materials provided or selected, is it possible that we can't keep them from finding an alternate if cost drives them to change the finished materials?
I think I understand it could be cost driven, but also we don't want a product in our community that's going to deteriorate in 5 years or something.
Right. So I don't mean to say that I don't know it's cost driven. I'm just saying that if they were to provide a material that we approve, we like the durability, the longevity, etc. And as they start to develop and build these homes, they realize they need to be a little bit more cost effective in whatever manner. And let's say those finishes from the exterior that we approved get put on the block as an alternative. How is there a way that we can, I guess, not necessarily monitor that, but is it, I guess, I don't even know how to phrase the question. I'm just making sure that if we are seeing the product, we like it, that is in fact the product that goes up versus they have their own, process. And then they're like, okay, well, this new tech wood, we're not able to get it due to lead times or cost. So let's find an alternative. And that alternative is not something that we see.
I understand what you're saying. I think that's staff driven.
I think we can approve it as long as we give them the opportunity and the verbiage to use like products with like warranty
equal
and like
approved.
weatherability, so that they can go out and they can definitely find local and cost-effective solutions that still offer what we're looking for, something that's durable.
Yes, and on top of that, staff reviews all of the elevation for planned communities whenever they submit building permits.
And then
Okay, so
there's a question. Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Janet Ford.
I was just making sure. So what you said is when you go through the plan check, you're essentially back checking that they're complying with what was approved.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
That's all.
Commission, Mr. Bimbrook, this is your application.
Talking about pushing this off. Back. So if we want to continue this, obviously they probably don't need too much time to gather together some information. What would be the next available?
And we've already closed the public hearing.
Or do we want to just amend it? That has to come, that particular product has to come before review. Staff
What
review.
would be our next available?
September 14th.
September 14th. Motion to continue it to September 14th.
Chair, I move to continue application PL 2023-053 to a date of September 14th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Linda Rader,
Aye. Aye.
Yes.
Crafton,
Aye.
Tony Ajana Ford,
Aye.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
The application has been continued to a date certain of September 14th, 2023. Move on to our next public hearing and open up application PL 2023-130, rezoning from Ag to CP2 and preliminary development plan, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive. KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant. This is to be continued to a date certain of September 14th, 2003. Could I get a motion on this, please?
Chair, I move to recommend approval of application I was going to add it to the end.
You can just continue it.
I move to continue to a date certain of September 14th, application number of PL 2023-130, rezoning of Ag to CP2 and preliminary development plan, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Johnny Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Aye.
Tanya Jenna Ford,
Aye.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
And the application has been continued. We'll move on to our next application. And we have application PL 20. We will open up application PL 2023-132. Special use permit for a car wash, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Property LLC applicant. This application being continued to a date certain of September 14th, 2023. Could I get a motion, please? Commissioner Trafton.
Chair.
Yes.
I move to continue application PL 2023-132, special use permit for car wash, Cowboy Car Wash, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, Cowboy Properties LLC applicant to a date certain of September 14th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Could I get a vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Johnny Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Aye.
Tanya Jenna Ford,
Aye.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
This application has been continued. We'll move on to our next application and open up application PL 2023-133, comprehensive plan amendment, change in land use designation from residential 3 to commercial, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant. This is to be continued to a date certain of September 14th, 2023. Could I get a motion, please, Commissioner Benbrook?
Yes, Chair. I move to continue application PL 2023-133, comprehensive plan amendment, changing the land use designation from residential 3 to commercial, 3601 Southwest Hollywood Drive, KC Cowboy Properties LLC applicant to a date of September 14th, 2023.
I have a motion. Could I get a second, please?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote on this application?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Johnny Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Aye.
Tanya Jenna Ford,
Aye.
Benbrook.
Yes.
Application has been continued. We don't need to do our resolution, correct? We don't need to do anything on that one. So we will move on to our next public hearing and we will open up application PL 2023-202, comprehensive plan amendment, water master plan, City of Lee Summit applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony or speak on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So
This where we have, do we just have someone from the public on Zoom?
We have, I believe, our consultant with Burns and McDonald, Ryan Scott, on Zoom.
He probably needs to turn on his camera and be sworn in, and I think as a consultant, they should be present from moving forward instead of this Zoom if they want to give professional testimony. Don't see him out there anywhere.
I'm on the line.
We need you to turn on your video camera and be sworn in if you're going to provide any testimony on this application.
Okay. This is Ryan Scott with Burns and McDonald.
you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Going.
Right, I'm a little new to this. All right, we're entering as a single exhibit of the water master plan to the record, please.
Okay, entering exhibit 1 into the record.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Thorne. I don't get in front of you all very often. I am Deputy Director for Lee Summit Water.
Lee Summit Water has a series of documents that we use to make long-term planning for our facilities and infrastructure. In the past here recently, we did bring a wastewater master plan before this group to bring in and attach to the comprehensive plan. These plans are based around the other planning documents the city does, such as the comprehensive plan and the city's goals and strategic plans that they do, so that we're meeting the needs of the city going forward. Our master planning process begins with reviewing our existing systems, right? We go through our existing systems, we look at our flow data, we look at our facilities, and we begin to build a hydraulic model of that system. We did extensive flow testing around the city. We looked at our pumping, our storage capacities, and our operational modes, and built a digital twin of our ground-based system inside the computer. From that, we look at level of service that we want to do, maximum, minimum pressures, the amount of storage we want to have for firefighting, for things of that nature, any contractual requirements that we might have. We have storage requirements set to us by the people who supply us water. They want to make sure that we have enough in storage that if they have intermittent interruptions, that there's that. So there's contractual requirements for that. That's reviewed. We do a diurnal analysis of the system, meaning we look at the system across several days, run the model in a simulation that, come back with the data that we collected from our actual field operations, how much water did we move, how much water did we store, all that kind of stuff, and ensure those two things coincide. If they coincide, then we know the model is calibrated to the existing system. All right, so now we have a model that matches what's in the ground on our field, and it operates exactly the same way as if we were running water through the pipes. We then go through future load projections. We get those load projections from the comprehensive plan. We look at the future growth in the population and the future use of water. We track how much the per capita use of water is for the citizens of Lee Summit, and then we look at the number of connections there are and plan on so much water per so many households, right? We then can extrapolate from that to how much water will be used. We review the system improvements needed to support the future of Lee Summit. We look at a demand allocation. This is the south zone. The city of Lee Summit is actually 2 pressure zones. So we operate almost as 2 independent water systems split at Strother Road. All right, so Woods Chapel Tower to the north is the only tower in the north zone, and the south zone has 3 towers in it. If you look at the map here, you'll see it's colored. It's got activity centers, all that. It's directly data pulled from the comprehensive plan. As we looked at growth and growth projections and how many new households were coming on, we pulled that information directly from the comprehensive plan, and it's planned to the comprehensive plan. We looked at where development might happen and what those lines, new lines for large diameter lines to go in would look like. We did that by looking at the thoroughfare master plan, where the major roads are going to go, and it's rough, right? But subdivision is going to come in, and we say a major road has to go through. It may not follow the exact alignment of the thoroughfare master plan, but there will be an alignment that road will follow. Our major water lines will follow along with them. We used it for long-term supply demand, okay? The city of Lee Summit has under contract today 32.5 million gallons of water on any given day. We then look at what we consider the growth rate. The dashed line is the growth rate as shown through the extent of the comprehensive plan. It's a fairly aggressive growth rate, okay? If you look at the stuff past that, the growth rate from 2010 to 2020 is actually the yellow line. So if we continue with the high growth rate, then we end up out at 50 years needing 49.4 million gallons a day worth of water. If we continue at the lower growth rate, it's 40.9. We weren't real sure that we could hold that rate of growth over time, so we split the middle, and we went in the middle there. It gives us a 50-year projection. Now, we like to review and redo these things every 5 to 10 years. So we will revisit this to make sure that we're on track for what we're doing. But what it tells us isn't about 2035. If we follow the comprehensive plan growth, we're going to need more water. Buying water isn't a simple thing. We do have purchasing contracts. We have rules in those contracts. There's only 3 real major suppliers around us: Independence, Kansas City, and Tri-County Water Authority. Where we currently buy our water, we buy 7.5 million gallons every day from Independence. It's the cheapest water source we have. Everything above that, to that 32.5 million, comes from Kansas City right now. There are some planning that we've got here, and we look forward to that, and we say, all right, so how does that look like? So what are our options to possibly buy water? Well, to stay within our contractual rules with Kansas City, we have to buy from them. Otherwise, we go to another higher tier yet. So we looked at what's available through them, what's available through Independence. We met with Kansas City, Independence, and Tri-County and talked to them. What purchase points might we have? How much do we have? Our major water that comes into South Terminal, which is a pump station off of Ward Road, comes down the Jackson Cass water main. When the Jackson Cass was built, there's another phase to it called Phase 4. So the Phase 4 of that would get us 8 million gallons. And as part of the agreement when we signed for that, if we told them we wanted that water, it was available to us and we could get it. So that is one of the pieces here. And we looked at each of these alternatives and we looked it through, and this is all inside of that document. We did an extensive look for our CIP, our tap fee models, and all the stuff where we're looking at our cost of service and how we set our rates and how we set the cost for tap fees and all that based on how we're going to buy new water in the future. What does that look like? What are the costs? How do we project that so we can put it in the out years so that we're setting something and we're collecting money ahead of when we need it? The other part of our CIP planning is for the actual infrastructure in the ground. This is just an example sheet out of the master plan. You'll see here we are at 291 and 150 on the southeast corner. There are lines there that are planned for it. They're laid out on the same lines that the thoroughfare master plan would show them. Are they the exact right spot today? I don't know. What we do want to know is that they're out there, that we're aware of them, that if a developer's coming in, that we have the information that says, hey, there's a 12-inch line that has to come through here somehow, and that there's a plan for that line to go in. When we look at the costing on this in today's dollars, that development may not come for years. We have to account for it a little bit. Developer will carry the cost of the line necessary for them, but if they don't need a 12-inch, then we might go into them with an upsize agreement where we pay for the upsizing of the line to get to the proper size. So we need to know that information. We need to know that the line is necessary. We need to put it in here once again so that we can inform our CIP programs coming forward and our cost of service model. So we use this extensively in the planning of our work and our future on our water side. We had several project deliveries on this thing. The master plan in total, was one big document, but out of it, we got a new water model calibrated to our system. We got a growth in density. Our growth in density was based on the comp plan, and it laid out the needs for our water supply and our CRP projects to inform our development and tap fees going forward. That's what we're asking you guys to approve today, is that plan, which is attached to our document and entered as a Exhibit A here. Questions you might have?
We don't have anything from the public on this other than the consultant that's out there. Okay. Commissioner Rader, anything?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Okay, Jeff, so you said your last slide that you had, this projection goes out to 50 years?
For water supply.
For water supply.
Yep. We went out 20 years for the CIP, all right, which basically for the growth net, which matches the comp plan. And we'll probably revisit this in a 10-year window just because it's good to do it. We'll get out there. We've seen interest rates change. It changed the amount of houses that are being built and all that kind of stuff. That growth rate's going to fluctuate some. Where we see pressure might change our opinions on what needs to go next. But it's a living document, and we try to renew it. Now, we're replacing one that was from 2006. It had been a minute. So it took a whole new model, it took a whole new build on this, and we basically started from scratch. There's some great news in this. We don't need any more storage. We're fine. We've got the pumping to move the water that we've got purchased. Some of the numbers for the supply that you see there included looking at potential new pumping and that kind of thing, but we're not terribly concerned about like the storage piece of that. And the lines that we have in the ground largely didn't come up as offsize or anything based on the projections we're seeing.
So does that include the new PRI land, or is that just too far-fetched and you can't go there?
The PRI land is in this comp plan. It was in the comp plan, and it's included in this master plan. It wasn't in previous because they were so far from developing it. Now, obviously, it's imminent. It was included in the comp plan. It was included in this. The lines, like I said, are laid out basically. They're the major lines, and they're laid out to follow the thoroughfares. Where they land will be development driven.
So help me understand. So if we're buying $7.5 million from Independence now, and then Kansas City picks up after that.
Yep.
So it's going to take us 50 years to run out with Kansas City, or?
No.
Okay.
I anticipate based on the growth but shown in the comp plan and the number of houses and population in the comp plan, a window to about 2035, and then we'll be at our max.
So then are we going to, can Kansas City keep going, or are we going to have to look for alternative water sources?
We have met with Kansas City, Independence, and Tri-County on that very subject already, because it takes a minute. These are our intergovernmental agreements. We are still in the first term of our 99-year agreement with Kansas City. And it's on 33-year intervals. We'll re-up that and then also look at adding water to it based on the Jackson Cass agreement that we previously signed.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Arth?
No questions.
Commissioner Trafton? Commissioner Bimbrook?
Yeah, just one question. Thank you, Chair. You said we were good on storage. Does that mean, and excuse me, my ignorance with water towers, do you anticipate the need of more water towers? I don't know if water towers is pressure or if that's storage.
Water towers are kind of both. Water towers are both pressure and storage. We pump it up into that, and it provides a static head, right? Water elevated provides the pressure in our system. And then we've also got a bunch of ground storage reservoirs. Currently, we have about 35 million gallons of storage in the city. Part of that computation is the standpipe at Harris Park. The recommendation in this master plan is that that facility be retired. I've worked here 10 years, and we've never stored water as long as I've been here. It has to be pumped in and pumped out. It's just not really efficient. So the storage other than that is fine and acceptable for what we've got now.
And just to follow up, no new water towers, or do you anticipate
I
needing
don't
more
see any.
water?
This report requires none in the next 20 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner General Ford, anything for you?
No questions. Thanks.
I will close the public hearing and open up for discussion or a motion on this application. Commissioner Arth.
I move to approve resolution 2023-04, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, adopting the 2023 Water Master Plan as an amendment to the Lee Summit Ignite Comprehensive Plan.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Could I get a vote on this resolution?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Terry Trafton,
Aye.
Tanya Jonaford,
Aye.
Randy Benbrook.
Yes.
And the resolution has passed. Move on to our last public hearing. Thank you, gentlemen, for waiting through all of this. We will open up application PL 2023-151 preliminary development plan, Streets of West Pryor, lots 11 and 13, 1000 and 1020 Northwest Pryor Road, Streets of West Pryor LLC applicant. Anyone wishing to provide testimony or speak on behalf of this application, please stand and be sworn in at this time.
Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help
Thank you. Give us your name and address for the record. We will move forward.
Good evening. Dave Olson, representing Streets of West Pryor, 7200 West 132nd Street, Overland Park, 66213. Also have with me Drake Development, Matt Pennington, President, and Ian Mooseman. I believe on or via Zoom, there should be Mike Goldman from Waterway on the phone or via Zoom. If we can confirm that he's available.
He did swear in. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Michael Goldman, I did swear in.
Weren't sure if he was standing and hand on the Bible. So,
Unseen him.
Just a brief update with Streets of West Pryor. So we have now successfully opened 10 restaurants of roughly 34,000 square feet. We have retail open of roughly 26,000 square feet, 63,000 square foot grocery store, and over 500 residential units now. We have completed the Vanguard Villas as recently as last month. So all of those units are now available for lease, and actually we're over 50% leased with the villas and excess of 60% leased on the signature apartments. So with tonight's presentation, that'll include 2 additional restaurant buildings, taking us to 12. We have 3 others committed, or 2 others committed, and a potential 1 restaurant building, taking us to actually 15 restaurant buildings. So why are we here tonight? Primarily the PDP that was approved in 2018. You'll see it here on the screen. Lots 11 and 12, the front Pryor, they're in the northeast corner of the site. That was shown as 2, I believe it's 6,500 square foot restaurant buildings. We had another restaurant building up along 470, and then a hotel structure in the back. So working with tenants over the last 5 years, getting interest, getting the right mix of tenants, the feedback that we've gotten from the tenants from a site plan standpoint, they would prefer and here's an overall of Streets of West Pryor. You can see starting from the left side, the villa product that's along Black Twig. Moving to the right, we have Signature at West Pryor. In the center is, or was Summit, it's now Century. The grocery south of the center apartment building. Down to the very southeast is Red Door Shake Shack. And then working from there along the frontage, you have the Starbucks, BB Bop building, Chase, Kava, and PNC, and then the last building there on lot 10, First Watch and Firebirds. So that's how the overall site plan has come together. We've kind of circled the areas that have changed. Lot 9 there in the center was programmed as a strip. We came back with 3 individual buildings, and then tonight we're talking about the northeast corner. So some of those reasons for our site plan change, and I'll kind of zoom in on the lots 11, 12, 13, and 14. So it is a boundary adjustment between lots 13 and 14. Those are the 2 on the west. But this plan doesn't really depict it well, but the building on lot 13, the east frontage of that, you can see in this plan how it's lined up with the Century apartment building, how that's lined up with Heavers, and our tenants were telling us that they much more preferred visibility coming from Pryor and Summit Woods Drive intersection, getting that visibility, looking like they're a part of the center itself rather than being back over along 470 kind of standalone. We expected the visibility from 470 to be a big attraction, but feedback from our tenants telling us they like the visibility coming up our main drive. So that's the reason for positioning the building the way we have. So we have also worked with some hotel prospects. They actually prefer the visibility up against 470. So what we're doing is merely listening to the market, doing what feedback we've gotten from them with respect to placement of buildings on 13 and 14. Now, lot 11, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but just to summarize the 4 reasons that we're here, the site plan change, they're on 13 and 14 that I just talked about. The building on lot 13 is now 12,000 square feet instead of 6,500. So in essence, what we've done is take the restaurant square footage from lot 11 and combined it with what was lot 13 for a total of 12,000 square feet on one lot, if that makes sense. So the third reason, change in use. On lot 11, going from restaurant to the car wash gasoline dispensary. Fourth reason, change in architecture. And we'll look at both buildings and we'll talk a little bit about that. So going to lot 13, and we'll kind of zoom in on that, talked about the extension of the shopping center frontage, basically for placement of the building. And you'll see on the plans submitted, we have the sanitary sewer that we installed in the first phase. We've got to move that, rework that a little bit, but not an issue. So architecture, lot 13 architecture is a departure from, the standard architecture that was approved in the 2018 PDP. So we're working with 30 Hop, and I'll talk a little bit more about them. They wanted to create a more industrial, warehousey type feel with verticality. Working with them, that was a primary word that we heard in the architecture was verticality. As a result, we're using pretty tall parapet walls in order to to increase the height and the verticality of the building. That also allows us to introduce some clear story windows. They're on the front and side rear elevations. In addition to that, there's a very large patio situated on the east and south elevations of the building. That canopy structure is more industrial, structural steel feel, not intended to be decorative, but the whole intent of 30 Hops architecture is to create an atmosphere where you celebrate the good times. Okay, so 30 Hop, from a business standpoint, they offer an American modern menu, 90 craft beers. Again, it's a place to celebrate the good times. Okay, the south half of the building, 30 Hop is occupying roughly 7,000 square feet of this building, leaving 5,000 square feet. What you see in front of you elevation-wise has the potential of splitting that 5,000 square feet into two 2,500 square foot users, or going with one 5,000 square foot user. And we have some really good prospects. We're not at a point that, we can say who that is, but again, we're trying to fill niches that are not available yet at Streets of West Pryor. So, you understand what's out there now, think about what isn't. That's what we're pursuing. So, kind of back to the site plan issue with 30 Hop placement of the building in line, that leaves a large amount of the parking on the west side of the building. So we've taken advantage or tried to present that back of house building in more of a, front of house architecture, if you will. So we've introduced signage. Again, the 30 Hop logo is trying to be, bold and grab folks' attention from even the western apartments beyond Century. They're at Summit, they're at Vanguard Villas. So the east side signage is very important. Again, I talked about visibility from 470. The north building signage will draw some visibility from 470. So they get a little bit of the 470, but their perception is bigger, better bang of visibility from the intersection of Summit Woods and Pryor. So we've really, in summary on this building, stepped up the four-sided architecture, so to speak. So moving to lot 11, kind of giving you an aerial rendering of how this site comes together. And first, I want to talk about feedback from the community. We're still meeting with the neighborhood groups occasionally. We're doing a lot of development in Lee Summit. We're at a lot of different functions. We keep getting feedback. There's no gas available on that side of town. If you want to, get a tank, you've got to go to Chipman. there by the car dealership or down to, what is it, the grocery store at that convenience store on 3rd Street. That's really the only options for gas in that area. And it is something that we feel, again, is a niche to improving, back at the very front, I showed you, live, play, all those things. I think we're missing that component of a little more service, right? So we worked with Waterway in order to incorporate gas. We did not just want to do a car wash, okay? That wasn't doable in our minds. We had to provide the gas dispensing opportunity as a part of this project. We felt Waterway was a means to providing a more upscale feel than a gas station, right? A typical C-store. We didn't want that, but we believe Waterway is, a great operator. The building design, canopy, and their circulation is something that will be successful for many years at this location, okay? We certainly wouldn't work with, an operator that we didn't feel, was going to stand the test of time. It's here at our front door. It's at a good location from a traffic circulation standpoint. We've got a very long queue that's available in front of their facility. We have even additional queue that's available on the entry drive. So having said all that, talking about the circulation inside their site area. So, it's obvious how you would enter the car wash from the west side, go through the automated wash, and come out the east. So we've incorporated a bypass lane. If you're not going to use, the line of vacuums, we've also made that drive wide enough so that, I'm going to pass up the first vacuum and get to the end, and they're all full. Well, we've got maneuverability to where you can turn around and go back. But if you're not getting, using the vacuum, we've got an escape lane to get you back out the exit. So moving to their architecture, I believe the architecture is very clean, very streamlined, using white and blue composite panels. I think it provides a very clean look. And I actually enjoy using the clean aspect of that. If you look on the north elevation, sort of the rendered elevation up here on the board, you'll see storefront with the words clean back behind it. So with the fuel pumps, again, very clean look to the presentation of the fuel canopy, limited signage. We've worked with staff as far as getting to what everybody believes the right equation for signage is. And that just gives you the view of a lineup entering the wash itself. And that basically closes my presentation. We've read staff's conditions. We're in agreement with that and would ask for your approval. of our PDP. If there are any questions specific to Waterway and their operations, Mr. Goldman is on the phone or on Zoom.
Thank you. Victor, are you doing this one again?
Hector Soto Jr., Senior Planner. I'd like to enter into the record Exhibit A, list of exhibits 1 through 17.
Exhibits 1 through 17 noted and entered into the record.
I'll touch on some of the points that Mr. Olson already has, but I'll try not to duplicate any testimony that he's already given. As a reference, here the image in front of you shows the planned mixed-use nature of streets of West Pryor. In red, toward the north end, closest to the I-470 eastbound exit lanes, are the two subject parcels that are highlighted in red. Lot 11 is the easternmost lot that has frontage on Pryor Road. Lot 13 is the one that sits behind it to the immediate west. So this image again kind of highlights the two lots and just shows how they interact, coming off of that northern signalized intersection that provides access to streets of West Pryor. So as has been stated, the westernmost lot or the easternmost lot is the proposed car wash location here with the pump island canopy that comes off of that main drive off the northern entry into the subdivision or the development with the multi-tenant restaurant building to the immediate west. So some of the specifics, as has been stated, the original land use did specifically call out that this lot would be a restaurant. I believe the square footage at that time was somewhere in the vicinity. It was a 7,500 square foot sit-down restaurant at that time. So the way that the preliminary development plan was approved, it did provide some specificity in calling out the particular land uses tied to each individual lot. So as Mr. Olson has stated, that is one of the reasons why this application is in front of you now. If this preliminary development plan, should it be approved, it would alter that allowed land use at this location. As a whole, car washes were not called out anywhere at Streets of West Pryor, but as has been stated, this is a service that has been identified by area residents as one of need or a desire between the car wash service and just the availability of gas in the area. The nearest the nearest gas station, as was pointed out, is off of Chipman Road. They're off of Blue Parkway. It's about a mile in distance. Now, car washes under other zoning districts like CP2 or industrial do require special use permit, but with this property being zone P mix, any land use can be approved as part of the plan with approval of that preliminary development plan. That's inclusive of a special use permit, and thus, if approved as part of that plan to be an allowed use, does not require a special use permit. Lot 13 to the west, again, that was the original hotel site, and how you could see here, essentially what was done was that previously, as was pointed out, the restaurant site was further to the north along 470, exit ramps, and essentially what's been done is just a switch, just flipping the restaurant and the hotel site. This one sits a little bit further back. But essentially, we're just looking at switching the same use within the development. So we're not introducing any new use to the area. It's just a matter of reorientation of the site. So Streets of West Pryor is within the boundaries of the Summit Activity Center. what that activity center does is it does call for a mix of uses, residential and non-residential, with those non-residential uses being retail opportunities, service opportunities that do allow more immediate access to those area residents for their enjoyment, just for their convenience and use. So this location, the provision of a car wash with gas pumps and additional restaurant opportunities are complementary uses to those residential uses in the immediate area, be it the multifamily or the existing subdivisions, single family subdivisions that surround the area. Mr. Olson mentioned the change in elevations from previous plans. Here's an example of a typical elevation that was approved under a previous plan. The materials included EFIS brick and stone, which you do see throughout the existing development. But at that time, also understanding that future potential users in the development might have their own particular aesthetic that they may be looking for to provide their own sense of place and sense of identity. Preliminary development plans have since been submitted at numerous locations, be it Red Door Grill, Shake Shack, a number of the other, I know some of the banks that have come through, and now at these two locations to offer the opportunity for them to kind of express their own architectural design and be approved as part of these revised plans. Mr. Olson mentioned that here what we see for this particular building on lot 11, we're looking at aluminum composite metal panel on all four sides, the use of wood look cement fiberboard, and some glass storefronts. But you do see that there are varying hues that are being used, with that architectural metal panel on all sides. You got a couple variations of blue to play on the theme of Waterway and their logo, as well as just kind of some silver canopies to provide some visual interest and accent. Here's some of the renderings to kind of give you a look of what those look like. So similar to this location for lot 13, you can see the kind of mustard color at the 30 hop and the other end cap space. They are employing the use of metal panel to kind of provide just kind of some contrast, some texture, to kind of differentiate some of these different tenant spaces and just provide just some visual and just kind of differences between them and provide varying roof lines. So in this particular case, that mustard color, the metal panel, does employ the use of more of a vertical reveals that do provide kind of that visual texture for those areas. Sign package. So as part of this application, there is a sign package that does, impacting both sites, lots 11 and 13. So first I'll touch on the waterway signs on the main building. So our ordinance for a single tenant building allows by right 3 signs. At this location, the request is for allowance of 4 wall signs. Staff has previously brought forth applications within the same within the same development and other similarly situated developments for single tenants that do have those 4 exposures where they would like some an additional sign to use along all of those 4 distinct facades. So this request here would be consistent with those and would be consistent with the numbers that have been previously approved. To the immediate south, I know Firebirds would have has similarly made requests for additional signage that has been approved. To the north and to the east of this location, for a previous application for the Crack Shack and via 313 at that location, there were again additional signage that was approved more than what the UDO allows by right. So one of the aspects that does bear additional mention, I'll highlight here on this blue projecting architectural feature. So there's, I guess, a technical piece of our ordinance that states that a facade or projection that is located within 5 feet of an exterior facade is considered a continuation of that adjacent facade. So what you can see here on the image on the upper right is, I guess, the view with these, the view from the northeast. So this side here where the cursor is, or the laser pointer is, would be the north side of the building. So this distance here where this architectural feature is about 5 feet from that facade. So in essence, this particular feature where this wall sign is located is for sign calculation purposes is considered a continuation of that facade. So when taking the square footage relative to the entire facade, it makes up about 4.3% of that facade. Now the image immediately to the south would be the backside of that same projecting element. Because its distance, the viewable distance of that side, is more than 5 feet from that same facade from that perspective, being this one, there's about 56 feet separation. The element on this side is considered its own facade for calculation purposes. So if you were to calculate that out based on the scale drawing that was provided, the particular sign on this side makes up about 51% of the area of what's considered this particular separate facade. Now, staff is supportive of granting a modification because, again, in comparison, we're looking at a similar projection, similar size sign, but just for the fact of that technical piece of our ordinance that treats it as a separate facade, we have to look at that not as a continuation of the facade on the south side of the building from that same perspective, but we have to treat it as its own. So, but again, it mirrors the same side, the same sign on the other side, so staff is supportive and we believe it to be a reasonable request. So the canopies, I showed just 2 elevations on here just because they are a mirror of the opposite side, but on the short side of the canopies, you do see that their use of the wave logo on the 2 sides, this side and the mirrored side on the opposite end. You would have the waterway fuels, and at this far end, you have that additional tagline. Well, because of the distance between that tagline and the waterway fuels brand, I suppose, if you want to call it that, these are considered 2 separate signs. So with it being mirrored, you've got 2 on this side, 2 on the other. So 4 plus the 2 logos. So as currently shown, there are a total of 6 signs on this canopy. For consistency purposes and just based on past precedent, staff is recommending no more than 4 on it. So they can, and we have no preferences to what they decide to remove, be it a tagline or this, but our recommendation is that no more than 4 total signs be allowed on the canopy. As I referenced earlier here, one of the requests here is for additional signage on the end cap spaces. So 30 hop on this will be the north end, and this yet to be determined tenant on the south end. So again, staff has historically been supportive of allowing additional signage for end cap spaces, given that there are additional exposures that the interior spaces do not have. A neighborhood meeting was held on July 10th, 2023. There were no attendees. We have 3 conditions of approval, with 2 of those, numbers 2 and 3, associated with the signage for the standalone building and for the multi-tenant building. So with that, I'll yield to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Hector. Any questions or comments from the public? Nobody here, nobody in Zoom land? Okay. This to help us move forward quickly, the staff is recommending only 4 signs. They're asking for the 6 signs. So, yes. Mr. Olson, first question, where's the giant chicken? Come on up, Matt. I was just kidding about the giant chicken, but let's talk about. Okay, everybody wants to know where the giant chicken is.
So Matt Pennington, President of Drake Development, appreciate your all consideration tonight. Obviously, we were in here a while ago asking for the large chicken on with Crack Shack. They are still in their development pipeline trying to work through that. They had 17 locations going, but when we look at all these tenants, you've seen the success of Streets of West Pryor, and it's imperative to be able to really somehow mesh with some of their requests. And we've been successful because of listening to the tenants. And I know we were in front of you asking for a mural of a chicken this time. Hopefully this is a little easier request. But those are the type of things that do change the developments and do give us a chance to land some of these really quality users.
No, I appreciate it. On these signs, I guess we have Dave or Matt, if you guys want to leave it to the representative from the car wash. We have 6 signs. Staff is in agreement for 4.
We were in agreement with staff's recommendations.
Which 4 signs, I guess? Because this is showing 2 on the north, 2 on the south, 1 on the east, and 1 on the west.
Correct.
There's 6 shown here. We're saying 4. Which 2 do we want to eliminate?
I was going to let Waterway make that decision.
Okay. You would like to flip on your camera, and you were sworn in. If you'd just give us your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I'm Michael Goldman. I'm Vice President General Counsel, Waterway Gas and Wash. Our corporate address is 727 Goddard Avenue, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63005.
Thank you. So we have the 6 signs. 2 on the north, 2 on the south, 1 on the east, and 1 on the west. If we're in agreement with staff recommendation of 4 signs, which 2 do we want to eliminate?
Yeah, the tagline, the go clean. That is something that we've played with, but it's not a vital part of our corporate identity.
Okay. So the go.
And there are 2 of those go cleans.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So I'll move on here. Commissioner Rader, do you have any questions for staff for the applicant?
No, Chair, thank you.
Commissioner Arth?
Yeah, I do have some questions. I'm a little confused. We're talking about, so lot 11, which one's the car wash and which one's the 30 hop?
Lot 11 is the car wash. Yeah, 13 is the 30.
Okay, thank you. So this question is probably for the applicant. I had a question on 30 hop. Is there gonna be a rooftop area?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and let me see. So then I had a question about where the gas station was gonna be placed, but I saw that on the latest plan there. And then I have a question for the applicant, and this is not, it's not part of this, but since that area is developing and there's so many more businesses that are coming in, there's a sign that's right behind a big utility pole there. Do you guys have plans to move that sign that says Streets of West Pryor? Because it's hidden. When you get off of 470 and turn left onto Pryor, when you're coming from the north, it's hidden behind that big utility pole. And it's a nice sign. I just wondered because it's kind of, it's a gateway, from the west going into our city.
I didn't cover it up by the pole.
I wish I had a picture of it because it really is like it's and from the direction I come, it's just right in the middle of it. You can't see the whole sign.
I don't disagree with you. I know what you're talking about as you turn in off of 470. There's just not a lot of room right there.
Yeah.
And so we're playing a game of inches with the power poles and, the easement that those provide and with visibility for our users. So, as we've looked at it, at least I've looked at it with our internal folks, that is probably our best spot for the users that we've now recruited.
Okay. Okay.
You're talking about the one on the very corner that
Yes.
says
Correct.
Streets
Yes.
of West. I was thinking of the multi-tenant
Oh,
at
no.
at the entrance. I'm sorry.
Okay. I just wondered. Thank you.
Commissioner Trafton.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I can save my comments for later. I actually like Waterway. I used to drive over to their car wash to use it before there were lots of car washes now in Lee Summit. My question is around, well, I have two questions. One is, you have the gas stalls, and then you have the entrance to the wash, and you have the C-store, which I think is on that west end, and then like that northwest corner of that building. I don't see any parking stalls for when people get gas and then want to go into the C-store and use it. There's no way to get around the building, and there's no way, and there's a lot of parking stalls that will never probably be used, I guess maybe by employees. And so I'm just curious, where are people supposed to just leave their car in the stall at the gas? And there's only 6 gas stalls, 3 little islands.
Yeah, this is Mike Goldman from Waterway. And thank you for driving to see us before you had other options, and hopefully we provide you a good option here. But we only have the 3 fuel pumps with 6 sides. And in our experience, there's some tricky parts about this site, but in our experience, people using our C-store, and while it will have sort of all the things you need, it's not a destination type C-store. And so in our experience, people generally just leave their car at the dispenser and then run in and get their bottle of water or their Diet Coke and head on out, which with this volume of fuel that we expect at this location, we don't see that as a big problem.
I hear what you're saying, and I mean, I guess that is the possibility, but I also am aware there's no place to get gas on that side of town or that area. This is going to be convenient. I can see, as the development continues to blow out and get built out, that will be lovely to have that there. And people will probably just park on the side or pull their car over to the side. I don't know what that little projection is right there. I don't know if that's like a little pay HUD or something. I don't know, but I see that as a potential problem. But I understand what you're saying, so thank you. Did you have something you wanted to add, sir?
I'm going to try and pull up the site plan, but I don't want to get.
Oh, I'm looking at it.
Okay.
The other question I have is around the fast exit lane. I don't know, I might be stealing Commissioner Jana Ford's question, but to me, there's a lot of asphalt over there, and it seems like an unnecessary lane to have there that you could actually make grass or some kind of drainage area instead of an exit. I mean, people are going to most likely. Do you have a sense of how many people don't use the stalls and just drive through? I mean, do you have this in other areas, I'm guessing?
Yes, we do. So this is actually a different setup than in our traditional waterway locations. This is double tunnel, so they're so as you see, 4 pay terminals go into 2 tunnels, and the customers all stay inside the car, whether they're getting a full service or an express wash, sort of like a lot of the express washes that are in your market now. what happens is that customers will have the choice. And some of those parking stalls, some of those vacuum stalls are meant for people to self-serve, and others are for the people who want to get out of the car and have us do the inside and do any of the other detailing that they wish for us to do. So that extra lane is actually really vital to us for those times when we have more customers who want that full service. That's a queuing area, or for that matter, if people want to do their own. But typically, it's more the full service customers because that takes a little longer and it requires a little more time. So that's why we have that long queuing lane. Our expectation is that queuing lane will be used based on other locations, probably about 40% of the time, less than half. But that's without it, we would be very concerned about cars sort of stacking on top of each other, waiting for a vacuum stall, waiting for our full service cars to be ready so that our employees can move them in and out. So it's really important for the site, for the overflow and for the site circulation.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying about the queuing lane, but I'm really referencing the exit, I don't know, the speed exit lane, the bypass lane that you can like avoid all of the, I see what you're talking about with the queuing over there by where you would do the full service, and then you could drive forward and go into the self-service, and then you go on an exit. I'm referencing that, like the fast exit lane that you have that is just seems unnecessary to me, I guess. So
would it be possible, just so I'm not speculating, and I would have liked to have been there in person, I just couldn't based on some.
I think they're putting it up on the screen for you.
Yeah, would it be possible to pull it up so we could make sure I'm talking about the same thing?
Yeah.
Can you see the image on the screen?
No. I saw it before when their presentation was. Oh, okay. Yes, now it's up, and thank you for blowing it up.
Yeah, so he's referring to this lane here.
Yeah, so that's what I was calling the queuing lane.
The queuing lane is up here by the grass. I see all that. But I'm talking about this little lane that's the fast exit lane that's really going between parking stalls. It seems unnecessary. Like you could still, if people don't want to use the vacuums or whatever, they can just exit out the regular way. I mean, that's what most people do anyway in those car washes.
Yeah. And that's, most people will do that, but that long lane that I was calling the queuing lane and you're calling the fast exit lane, that's actually what we envision as a queuing lane where people will wait to get called into their stalls. We do expect most people who don't have us vacuum or don't vacuum themselves to go right through the middle of the two lanes of the vacuum there. But that's what we see that lane. That's what I was referring to as the queuing lane.
So I incorrectly illustrated that as the exit lane or the bypass lane. The bypass lane is here. It's where they can bypass everything and exit. This is the queue lane where they can stack cars waiting for the vacuum. Does that help clear that up?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because you did reference it as the fast exit lane earlier.
I did.
That's fine. I thought the full service was where the little covered bays are up front, where you have those 12 covered blue bays or whatever. And then the self-service is out there. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't need to understand all that. I guess I was just concerned about why we needed that extra lane there. But I guess I hear what you're saying, what you need. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Commissioner Benbrook.
Thank you, Chair. I've got questions about the site plan as well. Where do the trucks park to fuel the tanks?
So on the plan, so our trucks will fuel after hours, and the tank farm will be. Again, I apologize. It's hard for me to where the vacuum is. The vacuum areas are on the. Yeah. Thank you. Just op. I was about to point, which would be very unhelpful. Sorry. Just opposite the fuel canopy, where you see that white car from top down that seems to be exiting. That's where the tank farm will be, and the fills and the tank farm will be right there. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so what's your hours of operation if they're fueling after hours?
Yeah, so typically we want to be able to be open for wash from 7 in the morning until 9 at night. Those hours usually compress during the winter a little bit when there isn't much sun, but that's what we ask for in wash. As far as fuel, we go we prefer 6 in the morning to catch those early birds until 10 at night. So the fuel delivery, and if you notice, it is Waterway branded fuel. So we have we've gotten rid of the brand in about half of our locations. So now we own that. So we get to have a whole lot more control over the fuel drops. So we insist that they come in after hours. So sometime around 11 or so is typical, because just depending on the route.
If I'm going to get gas and grab a Diet Coke, as you suggested earlier at your C-store, how do I get from where I'm fueling to the C-store without having to walk through a queuing line for the car wash?
So the way that the fuel pumps, the dispensers, they're all pointed towards that vacuum area, and then there's a sidewalk, and actually there is an updated plan that you all that don't have the that we haven't provided you, just because we're updating it today, where we showed a striped walk just to give people a nice safe place to walk right up to the sidewalk that takes you into the C-store.
Where's your regular parking spaces? Not your vacuum spaces, not your queuing lines, not your gas. Where are your regular parking spaces?
So those are all against West Prior. So those are all down at the far end. So if you're asking, our customers going to come in and park at Waterway and go in to buy a convenience store item, they could. There's shared parking behind us. We don't project it as being a draw for many people, and so we don't have typical customer parking at the front door of the C-store. We just don't believe we need it, and it's a tricky site. So we had to make some decisions that were tricky.
So Hector, this is a PDP, correct? Can we pull up the actual, the civil sheets, the actual engineer drawings, other than this? I've got serious concerns about the circulation, not only pedestrian, but traffic. I know we're not, this isn't a destination C-store. It's not like some of the other ones we've experienced here in town. It's more of a car wash. But I highly doubt ADA is appropriate. I highly doubt circulation for anybody getting fuel going to the C-store is appropriate. I don't feel pedestrian and car traffic should share the same pathways, and I know apparently there's an updated drawing that we don't have, but I have serious concerns about the choke point if I'm getting gas. Obviously, I pull into the site, I pull into a space, I'm facing north with my car. I've got to now exit, and if I'm not going to get a car wash, I got to exit left. There's a choke point there between an island and a parked car that could be fueling. If this is the only gas station in this area, it could get very busy. I've got some serious concerns. I'll save the rest of my comments for actual comments. I'll I'll save my comments for comments. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Jana Ford.
I feel like Commissioner Trafton knows me very well because he took my question from me. But I too have some concern about the site work. Commissioner Brandbook also said the same thing, that I have an issue with how a car fueling, if they did not want to do a car wash, how they would turn back to that thoroughfare. I think I'm not gonna kick a dead horse. I'll save my comments for comment as well. Everyone else got my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't. You haven't come up. You have more questions, correct? No, Commissioner Arth, go ahead.
So I'm familiar with Waterway, the one on, there's one on State Line that's been there quite a while. And I'm thinking there's a store in there, like a convenience store within the Waterway itself. When you go in to pay for your car wash, or if you're going to have full service, you can go in there. So I guess my question is, what, are you going to still have that? I guess not. It's just going to be separated. The C-store is like what you have in other stores, except it's separate. Is that how it's going to be laid out?
Yeah, so the convenience store is, because the car wash customers, who are the great majority of our customers under any circumstance, whether we have fuel or not fuel, are all staying inside their car. They ride through the tunnel. It's not like the old Waterway where you get out no matter what. You stay inside the tunnel, then you pull into the finishing area with the vacuum stations, and then that's your opportunity to go into the convenience store to pick up a couple items. As far as the fuel and that turn out, just one thing to note, one item to note, is that we are showing the fuel dispensers on an angle rather than straight in, which will make for an easier egress for the fuel customers. And so that's, I don't know, I just want to answer that other question also.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, are there updated drawings that we don't have that are missing? I mean, based off of the drawings that you had, site plans that you had there, Hector, that's not how this is laid out?
So these are the most current drawings that we've been provided, the ones that are in front of you right now and in your packet.
Okay.
And if I'm sorry I know you weren't asking me that question, but the updated drawings that I was referring to just simply show some striping, show an ADA space, a couple of things along those lines that we know at the FDP. Obviously, those will need to be polished up and shared with you all well ahead of time, so you have a chance to review.
Okay, you had mentioned that the fuel island is shown at an angle, but it's not going to be built at an angle. Is that? I think I'm trying to help Commissioner Benbrook and Commissioner Jana Ford.
The fuel dispensers. If you think everyone has obviously filled up their car, typically they are straight in under a canopy. We're angling them, which is also common. We've done it certainly many locations in the past, but it just makes for an easier turnaround and our easier egress point for those customers who are just getting fuel.
Okay.
But that hasn't changed. I don't know if the image on the if on all the plans it's clear there, but that's never. Yeah, there we go.
So I think I understand, but is that how the site plan reflects?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is what your concern is the way.
And I think you
understand.
may be having somewhat of a scale issue when
It's
you're
not the scale.
looking?
If you look at this drawing, right, let's say you're this top car getting fuel, right, at this, you've got to now flip a U-turn into oncoming traffic going to the queuing lines of the wash area, right? Cars don't turn that tight, neither do trucks. So if you're that top car at that top fueling one, and I mean on the other side of this pump, because you got a double-sided pump, you've got to make a U-turn into oncoming traffic.
This car
No, not that
here.
one. Move up, all the way up. One more, right there.
Here
If you're on the
would-
other side of that pump getting
would
gas,
be exiting,
so you're
going
still coming
that-
against the flow of traffic, though. The cars are
but the
angled.
car queues are on this side of the fueling stations.
Yes, but you're saying that they're going to make left-hand turns. I don't think if you throw that into an engineered turning radius, it's going to make it.
I'm pretty sure it will.
And even if it does, which way do you think people are actually going to go?
I have relied on Waterway in their layout of this and checking the turning radiuses for their maneuverability. And
Has this gone through that already?
my understanding is Waterway has done that.
Yeah, the turning radius, it, for lack of a more technical term, it works. We had our engineers take a look at it, and obviously we can also provide a plan in the future that shows the car motion, the car movement.
So I think for David and Hector, if we could go back to the actual, do we have a site plan that shows some distances? I think trying to get us all to a point where we maybe have some true
scale.
Yeah.
Not the landscape plan. I'm going to try and zoom in on this area to get some more dimensions. Because I included the utility plan on this one. I don't actually have the dimension site plan is very busy. But to give you an idea of scale, the vacuum spaces, how wide are those? I can't quite remember, but they're
Yeah, we've got two dimensions on our vacuum spaces of width. One is 12 and one is 15. The ones you're pointing to will be the narrower ones, and the ones in front of the building are the wider ones.
right. And these spaces along Prior are the normal 9 by 18. So if that's kind of giving you some sort of scale, you've got, an 18-foot wide drive just beneath, in between the canopy and the curb line there, to make that, in essence, U-turn.
Also, Dave, Mr. Goldman said there would be a sidewalk. I'm trying to find if they.
And yeah, we can easily incorporate a sidewalk right along that curb line that goes right into the front door.
Because I think the landscape print shows sod. I just want to make sure for everyone we have a clarification that there's a sidewalk there for pedestrian safety. I think was one of the questions or concerns I heard, and then
right.
I was trying to look and see if there was a dimension on one of the site plans, whether it was landscape or.
Chair, Would it be appropriate if maybe we could ask for more information on a detailed plan and come back?
I'm gonna leave that to Commissioner Benbrook and Commissioner Jana Ford, who have questions and concerns about this part. Okay, I mean, we can close the public hearing and move into comments and maybe talk about continuing it and just getting a quick site plan for, anything else while we're in public hearing? Commissioner Jana Ford, you good?
No, I have a couple questions if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
And it's just to, again, have a little bit more information so we can decide best. I know you described a little bit about the parking that's on the east side, so along West Pryor. And again, it's kind of harping a little bit on circulation. Who are the end users for those spots? Is it the folks working at the station, or I'll let you, sorry.
Our expectation is those will mostly be our employee parking. I mean, we won't have as many employees as all those parking spaces are, because we do run it with our new routine, our new style. We do run a little bit leaner with employee count, but that would be our intention. And we also do have an agreement with some other offsite parking if necessary.
So I guess my question for that, if the business model is to have lean employees, and there's, I'm not going to count, but let's say more than 10 or so parking spaces over there. And kind of what Commissioner Arth had mentioned, the previous ones, you can park, you don't have to get gas, you can go to the convenience store, get what you need and go. So you have a parking spot. Is there any possibilities, if we do see this again, moving that parking to a more accessible area? So if you don't need to go to get gas, or in this case, the only way you can really access it easy is if you actually go through the car wash. Maybe having a central parking spot to accommodate the employees, plus those that aren't wanting any of the other amenities aside from the convenience store items. Was that like a discussion point as you were designing the layout?
Yeah, it was. And many of our locations historically have not had parking in front of our location on College Boulevard does not have parking in front of the convenience store. Our location on State Line, which is a much bigger convenience store, has 4 parking spaces, which are never used. A couple of other locations in Kansas City have very limited parking. Now, in a perfect world, of course, I couldn't agree with you more. But with sort of the challenges of this being a long, narrow site, we couldn't find a spot where it didn't cause significant problems. Now, I will tell you, we are showing a lot of vacuum spaces, and we're not going to monitor it in such a way that we're not going to keep you from pulling in and parking and using those. But it would be an awkward maneuver. I'm not going to pretend like it wouldn't be. Now, we do have these vacuum spaces at other stores, and people do use them sometimes for parking every now and again for whatever reason. But it's just not a very typical, it's not really our business model.
So you kind of brought up something I was going to ask. It seems like you do have a lot of vacuum bays. Statistically, are they used enough that they're warranted to have as many as you have in the plan?
It is. That is a good question. It depends on the site. I hate to give the lawyer answer like I am, but it really depends on the site. Here, what we have found in the past is we never want to have people waiting. And we always want to have enough so people don't feel like this is going to be a problem. Now, we're prepared if they have to, but that's not our plan. What we're showing is a very full amount of vacuum spaces where we say if this site reaches above and beyond our current projections, can we handle the traffic on those busy days, the sunny day after the snow? And when every car is covered with salt and everyone wants to get their car washed. And we think this does give us that. But again, the vacuum stalls are not monitored in such a way that we wouldn't allow someone to park there. It just is not a very convenient way, and we know that.
Okay. And then one last question. Again, circulation. I see that there's a trash, oh gosh, what are they called? A trash enclosure.
Dumpster enclosure.
Yeah, it's in the thick of the circulation path. Can you talk to me a little bit about why that was the place that it landed versus somewhere that's not as busy?
So initially, pardon me, where we showed the the dumpster enclosure was in that parking area against West Pryor. There is a, pardon me, there is a easement, utility easement where we can't build permanent structures down there. So we put it in a place where it could make an easy pick for the trash trucks, and we unfortunately don't have fresh food, so it doesn't. Our dumpsters don't tend to get too bad, and it's the enclosure obviously will match the building materials. So typically they just sort of go away, but that was sort of the best of our choices, we felt.
So you had mentioned about the fueling tanks, those would be off hours. And then what about the trash trucks in getting the trash from the trash enclosure? Are those going to be off hours too?
That would be our intention. Now, I will tell you, with trash, we don't have the same pull with the trash folks as other people, but I will tell you, typically, and especially in development like this, obviously we're going to have the trash people come when they're coming for all the other tenants, and without knowing, and I'm speculating, which I really shouldn't do, and maybe some of the developers can say, but typically they pick up at off hours. But I that is just my speculation.
Okay. Well, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Of course.
That's all, Chair.
Thank you. Anything else from the commission? Commissioner Trafton, you had something?
Chair?
Yes.
What I'm hearing from city staff behind me is that they would like some more time to analyze the circulation issues you've been discussing. So I think they would like to request a continuance of the public hearing.
Okay. I think, Dave, are you clear on the kind of what the staff wants to see and the distances? I think there's, in my mind, I think there's a little bit of an optical illusion of that someone can perceive, and though nothing to Mr. Benbrook or Commissioner Jana Ford, where the awning is drawn and that curbing comes up. I think it's looking like there's a shorter distance there, but maybe we could get a measurement in there.
Place some turning radiuses, for standard passenger vehicles, and actually provide a blow up area of that to just give everybody comfort that we're providing adequate maneuverability for that Suburban, right?
Okay. Nope. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Matt.
One other thing, and obviously, totally appreciate all the comments. Obviously, we're trying to hit some timelines with weather, and Mike has worked with us just tirelessly trying to get to this point today. Is there any possibility to continue forward with making those changes with stipulations on a FDP, or am I just?
Can we just to staff?
Obviously, we want to work with staff and get to the next level, but we're also up against. We have 30 hop going. We have a lot of different timelines we're trying to hit with weather.
I guess give the commission a bit more comfort, and if you can imagine with me, when you extend the queue lanes out, even if there proves out that there isn't adequate maneuverability, that canopy and pump area can move south toward the queuing area to give more maneuverability to the north. And I think what Matt's asking is, let us prove that out with staff to their satisfaction and allow this project to go ahead and move forward toward city council.
I don't think we can, sorry to interrupt you, I don't think we can let it approve out with staff, correct?
So what I'm hearing, I'll let our traffic engineer speak for herself, but the general concern is city staff's review of this site plan was based on certain assumptions that are not the case. For example, again, I'll let her go ahead and talk about the specifics.
Susan Berry, traffic engineer. When I reviewed this traffic study, I was under the impression that those gas pumps were just for car wash clients. I probably should have asked the question, but looking at the layout, it looked like there was no possible way that you could come in, get gas, go back out. And so I made that assumption. That might be my fault. But if those are additional trips, that affects the traffic study. And, you know, it might not be a big impact because it's not a lot of pumps, but it is something to consider.
So it would definitely has to come through this body of.
Yeah, and I think what city staff is saying is their analysis of what you're reviewing right now is based on certain assumptions that are not correct based on everything, all the testimony we've heard tonight. And they would like more time to review based on what we've heard for a continuance of the public hearing.
I guess a question for the applicant would be, can we approve the Waterways car wash, let them move forward with the car wash, and then potentially add the fuel island?
I mean, look, I'm the one that's pushed Mike to do these gas pumps. Just because that's
Gotcha.
what I'm hearing from people around. And I just think it's a really good convenience. I go to Waterway twice a week, and when I go into that convenience store, there's one other person with me in there. So it is mostly patrons. And so, yeah, to my thought process was, how do we, you know, get both here with getting residents satisfied and still helping Mike's business. So I want those pumps. I think it's great to have them. But if that's going to stop this deal, then I'm open to continuing with Mike's, because Mike's a best-in-class operator. And so I look at him as the Waterway concept as a great use for streets of West
But
Broward.
I think we continue on with that. We're going to have the gas pumps there. I think in order to get the application, I guess my question is, in order to keep the application moving forward so you guys could begin construction, site work, whatever you need to do, we approve the car wash and not the gas pumps? I mean, is that possible? I mean, if we just need to go back and do some design changes to make the fuel island stand.
Good evening, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director. To your question, yes, if we approve this evening with the stipulation to remove the gas station canopy, then it could proceed forward to council as is, and then they could resubmit, continue working and collaborating with staff on basically like a revised PDP. So that as soon as or after the council approved what they saw, if they wanted to update their PDP, put the gas station canopy area back in, that could be reviewed, collaborate with staff, and then bring back to you all just with the normal PDP process before they move to final. But that would let them, at least the other portion of their development, continue to proceed.
If Mike's okay with that.
Yes.
I guess
Mike's
for-
okay with that, I am. But like, obviously, we haven't talked about that.
I mean, if Mr. Goldman, if we approve the application minus the fuel island so the project can continue to move forward, we're talking 2 weeks, we could have you guys back in front of us. 2 weeks means a lot in construction sometimes. We would approve the car wash as it is moving forward and allow you guys to collaborate with staff and fix any traffic study items to make the turnarounds for traffic flow for the fuel islands work. Would you be okay with that? Basically saying we would approve the car wash part tonight, but not the fuel islands.
Um, so this gets tricky for me. We did have to work ourselves pretty hard to make sense of having fuel at this site, but now that's become part of our economics. What I would say is, it does make sense the way you're suggesting that we move forward. And obviously, I need to talk with the rest of my team on how we feel about that change. That being said, I suspect it's something that we'll be able to work around and either go forward with gas or without gas if we can't, figure out the turning that works for
I mean, the other option we have is we can continue it, the whole application for 2 weeks. We would be back here September 14th. That's up to you guys. I mean, I'll allow you guys to answer that. We can approve this thing either way.
So I'll go ahead and chime in with, it's sort of a procedural point, I suppose. You're presented with this PDP as it sits in front of you, and you're going to be making a recommendation to the city council on this PDP. So it sounds like what you may be saying is your recommendation might be to the city council, we recommend you approve this PDP without the gas pumps.
Correct.
And so that doesn't, they would still have to come back through this full process. So for example, if the council took up that recommendation and approved this PDP without the gas pumps, they would have to come back through this whole process again to add the gas pumps later. But my point is, as this is presented to you now, you're making a recommendation on this PDP as opposed to we're recommending approval of this piece and we're not recommending approval of that piece. You're making a recommendation on this PDP.
Okay.
Which you can condition however you'd like. For example, with the recommendation to remove the gas pumps.
That would be our part, but I guess. Go ahead.
Mr. Bushek, I have a question. So based upon that, we could recommend that it not be approved and then let city council take it from there. By then, would the applicant have the time to get the plans modified so the gas station can be there?
Possibly. So to kind of take it back to the basics, you generally have three options. You're recommending approval, recommending denial, or recommending approval with additional conditions. And it sounds like where you're going is possibly recommending approval with additional conditions if you decide to do that. And one of the other things, as we've been discussing here, is other staff behind me is saying it might be good for us to take a 5-minute recess to talk about all of this to figure out what the best approach our recommendation might be to you.
Okay, that's fine. We'll take a 5-minute recess and then regroup. We'll resume after our recess and we will close the public hearing and move to a motion. Continue this to September, we're good for September 14th. Yes. Commissioner Rader.
Thanks, Chair. I move to continue application number PL 2023-151 preliminary development plan Streets of West Pryor, lots 11 and 13, 1000 and 1020 Northwest Pryor Road, Streets of West Pryor, LLC, applicant to a date certain of September 14th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
Aye.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Gary Trapton,
Aye.
Tanya John Ford,
Aye.
Andy Benbrook.
Yes.
And the application has been continued to a date certain of September 14th, 2023. We will move on to our next item. Do we can do this item just for the water? The resolution? Or we already did that, so this is the resolution that would have been for the Cowboy Car Wash.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't need to read that
No,
one.
no, this was the item that was continued from the last meeting. The resolution was cleaned up.
Okay.
And so the answer is yes, you can proceed right to action. I mean, you can have any discussion you'd like, but you can also proceed right to the action because you've already had extensive discussion.
Commissioner Benbrook, this is you, sir.
Chair, I move to approve Resolution 2023-03, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, amending the Lee Summit Ignite Comprehensive Plan.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Can I get a vote on this resolution?
Linda Rader,
Aye.
Dana Arth,
No.
Donnie Funk,
Yes.
Gary Trapton,
Aye.
Tanya John Ford,
Aye.
Andy Benbrook.
Yes.
And the resolution has passed. We will move on to roundtable. Anyone? Linda, Commissioner Rader, anything in roundtable? Commissioner Arth.
I was going to talk about the CEDC meeting, but my mind's a little bit jumbled, so I'll talk about it next meeting.
Commissioner Trafton, anything?
Yeah, I just want to thank city staff for the work you guys are doing on the apartments, multifamily update. I know that's a lot of work and detail that you guys are diving into. I think for the betterment of just having a more informed decision-making process. And so, but I do know it's a lot of work. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
I second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Benbrook, anything?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Commissioner Jana Ford.
No, nothing else on here.
All right. Anything from staff or roundtable? No?
I had one question, actually. It's just a point of clarification on the first public hearing. So the material specification that was requested on the lab siding, just to give the applicant some direction, is there like a minimum specification standard that you are looking for as it relates to the lab siding or the siding material?
So a minimum standard, they reference Smart Panel, which is an engineered 25-year warranty product. If it was a similar product or a similar durability, that would be fine. Hardy siding is also acceptable, but that's usually like a 35-year product. So just something that has a similar durability to a Smart Panel.
Right, thank you.
May I ask something about that? Do we have the latitude to require those kinds of?
You can ask for, as part of a preliminary development plan, a public hearing, you can ask for additional information you feel pertinent to be able to make a recommendation to the planning commission or to the city council. Yeah.
In this instance, the only reason why I'm concerned is because they're replacing a vinyl siding product. within an existing community with a board and batten or a lap siding, and they're not specifying it. So for me, if I was a homeowner and I thought I was moving into a neighborhood that had a minimum standard of a lap siding, which is a 30-year product, and then somebody came in and threw up just some cheap generic lap siding that was going to last 10 years, I'd be concerned. So my thought is, because it's in the preliminary development plan, they're held to a minimum standard. I think we should still try to hold them to a minimum standard.
You're comparing that to the vinyl siding?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just for durability and wearability.
And also, Commissioner Rader, to help answer your
Yeah.
question also, the exterior construction materials is one of the listed requirements in the UDO that's part of the elevations. So I'm sort of adding to what Hector just said, which is that's something that's specifically required as part of the elevations, which makes it something valid for you to ask about
Okay.
and discuss.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I think just for some historical parts, and your Elam is way back there in the back, not paying any attention to us doing this hard labor work. But I think we spent one evening arguing. I think Mr. Elam was here. I know Chief Eden was here. The thickness of the different thicknesses of vinyl siding. Don may have had the pleasure of sitting through that meeting. So I think we take in consideration, as us up here, to help you when that question was asked, is what is the material, so we understand that it's not someone coming with a cheap product.
I understand that. I guess I'm just thinking, it's just like, okay, so if we're talking about cost, for instance, you know, a 50-year product costs a lot more than a 30-year product or a 25-year product. And I guess I just wanted to make sure I understand that. I guess I'm wanting to know, you know, do we have the ability or the responsibility or whatever to be that specific with? I mean, we don't want to build, nobody wants cheap products.
Sure.
That's why I questioned the batten board. That wasn't typically a good product.
No, and I think that's Mr.
But-
Benbrook and my case where we were asking what the type of material was, is to understand that it just wasn't some cheap 5-year lap siding thing they're going to slap on there and
Right.
get the price point way down, and it doesn't look so hot in 5 years.
Right,
Just
I get it.
understand what that product is.
I have a really important question. Since we're going to be here till midnight on the 14th, are we going to have like a big buffet for dinner?
And a wine tasting.
Yeah, exactly.
And a what?
A wine tasting.
Since we are granted with the presence of Mr. Elam, what are we?
Prediction.
Maybe 15-2, 14-3. You're gonna put something on the table? No. No. Anything else, staff? Anything? No. We are adjourned.